What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the team that I ran on my first ever YouTube public live stream. It was running Alolan Marowak, Double Water Fairy, and Tapu Fini and Azumarill. Felt like it was a very strong team for the current meta, considering Steelix and Medicham are all over the place. Felt like a very strong trio, and I think that I let the results speak for themselves. Now, as long as we can avoid those stupid fish lanterns, we're okay. So let's take a look at the battles and just see how this team did in the Open Great League meta. We lead into a Medicham. First game picking up the team. You couldn't ask for a better lead. Opponent swaps in a Lickitung, and I should have absolutely stayed in for some chip and dip here. Considering my entire team does beat this Lickitung, I should have made a better play here not to allow myself to, start shielding power whips and things. Now, I am going to have to continue to go for the harder hitting move Play Rough here because Ice Beam would not be doing as much damage, even though it's a little bit less energy. I'm really not looking forward to having to start shielding body slams here. But we're going to see this person go for the power whip. I'm going to let that one go because I feel like I've done enough damage where I can start going for the lower energy Ice Beam now that I've landed the Play Rough and gotten the Lickitung down this far. My opponent does look to make a play for switch here, and lets me get to the Ice Beam before they're going to throw off one of their charge move, which could get me another shield. Opponent does decide to go shields down against this team. This is a mistake, I think, by them, but they're not going to know that I have a Tapu Fini in the back at all. But we're going to see my Alolan Marowak come back in here so that I resist all of their energy that they've farmed up. Double resisting body slam, single resisting power whips. The licks do hurt, and they add up kind of quickly, but I get a little bit of a farm down, and I get the 1 HP farm down, too, which is nice. And the opponent comes in with a Swampert, and I don't know if y'all have ever played this matchup before, but Swampert does not appreciate taking a Shadow Bone at all. And I'm going to come in with my Tapu Fini here, and because the opponent either has to take a Surf or a Moonblast, I'm going to take the energy here. Was trying to throw because I felt like they were over farming, but I am going to go ahead and over farm quite a bit more here. I want to be able to get pretty close to a Surf before I take out this Before I take out the Medicham with the Moonblast. Goodness, my brain is turning off today. I want to make sure I have the energy that I need to get to the Surf before this Swampert can take out my Tapu Fini, and that is going to finish up the first game. Very well played. Now, I will warn you, the next two games are losses. Very close ones. But because of this stupid thing, I said when I picked up this team, I'm like, look, it's a good team as long as I can avoid the lanterns. Here's Lantern. I got a Medicham in the last one. It was a good lead. Now they're going to give me a Lantern. So I guess everything evens out, right? So what I like to do here is if the Lantern has Spark, I stay in with my Marowak, I shield the Surfs, and I try to go for Bone Clubs in quick succession. Now, I overfarm in this one. Now what I'm doing is I am going for the one more and going for the Bone Club right away. This opponent swaps out into a Diggersby, but because I'm down 2 shields, they're in a pretty commanding position to be able to do really whatever they want at this point. I could have come in with my Azumarill. Maybe that would have been the better play here. I'm really not sure. I have not played out the Diggersby matchup with my Tapu Fini because this is the first time my Great League Tapu Fini has ever been in the Great League. I actually got this thing a couple seasons ago, right after it was really relevant in the meta, and then, of course, it really just wasn't anymore when I got it. So this is the first time I've been able to bring it into the meta, which is really nice. The opponent comes back in with their Lantern. I'm hoping maybe they spend a shield here to keep their Lantern healthy. I do have quite a bit of energy on my AWAC, so I'm going to try and come in and go for these Bone Clubs here, knowing that they just threw the Surf before they dipped. And that's hopefully going to allow me to get the shields back from my opponent. And what I'm really hoping I can do here, if I'm counting their energy correctly, is go for one more Fire Spin or go straight into the Azumarill. And I'm basically going to have to start eating a Thunderbolt. I'm hoping that maybe they have something like Medicham in the back. That would make my day. My opponent has a Medicham in the back, and my stupid self does the one thing that I tell myself never to do. Throw on alignment. I could have gone for one more bubble, and I would have been able to throw a Play Rough into this Medicham, and I think that would have made a bigger difference here. Because now they're going to be able to get to a charge move, and I have to find out if this is Psychic, or it's a nice bunch of the Psychic. It's going to take me out, so the only play that I have here is overfarm as much as possible before they can get to another Psychic, CMP them on the Psychic, throw the Shadow Bone, hit that button because that's going to be a lot of damage, and then I need to get to this Bone Club. My opponent had more energy than I thought they did, so had I thrown the Play Rough, I think I could have won that game. I did actually beat a Lantern today while doing my sets off stream, So it is doable. It's difficult, but doable. Typically involves trying to make sure you can catch a Surf, though, on the Azumarill when you safe swap it, because you can't stay into this matchup. It is very bad for the Marowak, and you do lose that matchup entirely. So they're going to go for Surfs here, just like we've been doing. We're going to go for these Bone Clubs, put pressure on the HP bar of the Lantern, hoping to get some HP off of them and or a shield even. This is where I start going for the Bone Club right away. So this is how I play it now. Puts it a lot more pressure on the Lantern right now to get some low HP, and I take that opportunity to try to catch the Surf. Now, I come in with my Tapu Fini just because I feel like Tapu Fini would be a little bit better off here, going for Moonblast, going for a farm down kind of thing. I didn't want to let Azumarill with its slow bubbles get basically annihilated for energy from the Lantern, if I'm being honest. But opponent has a Mantine with Bubble Beam in the back, and this pretty much spells doom for me here, because not only do they have one water type that can deal with my whole team, but they have two. Mantine being very neutral into this team because of its new buffed Aerial Ace, which I love Mantine in this meta now. Opponent's running Ice Beam, though, and I unfortunately don't go for the Surf because I didn't think I had one ready. So, excuse me, that is going to be unfortunate. Going to miss that chip damage. I'm coming in with my Marowak here to soak what would be either an Ice Beam or a Bubble Beam. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I think I was just coming in to soak some energy because I didn't want my Azumarill to get debuffed, which is going to get debuffed anyway. I think that was my plan here, was just to try to avoid having Azumarill be double debuffed. But then they come in with a Frostlass anyway, so I feel like there's a chance if I can somehow farm down this Frostlass and get a Shadow Bone off on the Mantine, I feel like that might be my way to win the game here. So I am going to just let this energy come hit me. I'm hoping that I can play to that win condition, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be here, let's be honest. So I'm farming up here. My opponent throws kind of quick, and I'm feeling like this might be an Avalanche, so I go ahead and no-shield this, and it is indeed the Avalanche. My switch clock is coming up, so I bank the energy on my Azumarill Fillet to get the farm down on the Frostlass. Can I get the farm down on this Lantern before it goes, before it takes me out? Now, again, I don't remember how much exactly energy. It's been a while since I've seen this Lantern, so I go for the Bone Club after getting a little bit of farm. My opponent is able to wing attack me down, and I miss my opportunity to get the Shadow Bone, and then my Mantine, the opponent's Mantine is going to be able to wing attack me down at this range. So unfortunately, it's going to be a good game. It was very close. I would like to think that was close anyway. Very, very small one-turn situations where I could have made a difference there. But anyway, we got a Charizard and lead in the next match, and I'm going to bring in my Azumarill straight away. Opponent brings in a Leafeon, some late rank spice here in the Great League, but even still, that's a hard counter if I've ever seen one. But it's the kind of hard counter that my Marowak completely walls. So that means that I should easily be able to just go for as many Ice Beams as they let me get to, and then my Marowak can just farm this thing all the way down. Now, they go ahead and throw early here. That means they have no energy now. So I'm going to let it go. Marowak's going to come in, is going to farm this whole Leafeon down. I know that Dragon Claws and Blast Burns are going to hurt from the Charizard, but they're going to have to start shielding, and they've already shielded once. Are they going to want to shield the Charizard even though they've already shielded this Leaf Bomb? We're about to find out. I am going to go ahead and shield this up, though, just to keep my Marowak a little bit healthy. Unfortunately, the Leaf Blades do not feel that great. Opponent has a Greninja in the back, and they come in, and I swap right into my Tapu Fini here, and I know that they can't come in with the Charizard. There's no reason for them to come with the Charizard. So my opponent's going to throw a Hydro Cannon. This Greninja is very dangerous. If it can get through my Tapu Fini, I'm not going to have a good time. My opponent almost doing a very nice catch there to catch the Moonblast, but I was going to go for a Surf Bait anyway against Greninja, and my opponent just lets it go. Going to go for the Surf here because that, at this point, I'm probably not going to get to a Moonblast, so I decide to throw the energy beforehand. The opponent no shields. Going to go for these Water Shurikens, and I'm going to have to take a charge move here. Is it a Night Slash? I might live this, but they go for the Hydro Cannon. That's going to take out my Tapu Fini, and at this point, it's a farm down because I should have probably just gone for 2 Bone Clubs, but I thought that they were going to have the charge moves ready to go. I don't know, man. I just went for the farm down and I won the game, so there we go, okay? I could have gone for 2 Bone Clubs, but I was being a weirdo and not paying attention. We get a Hypno in the next game, and not such a bad lead, depending on the opponent's moveset. Got to make sure I'm keeping track of energy, but I throw on 5 Fire Spins, which is good timing, into the Confusions here from the Hypno on 15 turns from 5 Fire Spins. My opponent and I simultaneously swap. I was looking to catch a potential Punch or Shadow Ball. My opponent Goes right into a Toxicroak, and this is not a great matchup for them, but because they have Sludge Bomb, as most Toxicroaks do, they can still fight back against my Azumarill. However, I am going to go ahead and throw the player off and get the final shield off my opponent. My opponent completely willing to give all their shields up right now, and I'm willing to give up none, because this is easily a situation where I could farm down. But I do decide to just kind of go for it here, as my opponent has no energy. I am gravely mistaken, as they had enough energy to get to the next Mud Bomb, and now I decided I've got to commit to this. I've double shielded. I may as well go to 115 energy, throw this Ice Beam, let the Toxicroak go down, and then have absolutely no energy to throw into the next thing because I have no HP. Except I get the new mechanic. Let's go. 1 turn lag on my side for once in my life. Getting that Ice Beam off for some chip damage, so hopefully those 2 shields don't completely go to waste here. But let's be honest, that was a really stupid pair of shields. So what I do here, fearing the Shadow Ball, is I swap in, I do the little peekaboo thing, and I swap in my Tapu Fini hoping to catch the Shadow Ball, but instead I catch these hands in the form of a Thunder Punch or 2, and that's going to be a lot of damage dealing with my Hypno, so it's going to really be up to what's in the back. My opponent has a Medicham, and now the stars have aligned. I'm going to be able to get to the Shadow Bone before they're going to be able to get to a Psychic, but my opponent throws early. This is just an Ice Punch. This prevents me from, or this allows me, rather, to start over farming, because I know that if they're just going to throw Ice Punches at me, I can go for 4 more Fire Spins. But this also means that I am in very, very low HP. If this Hypno has a move, I'm toast, but they don't. They need 2 more Confusions to get to the next punch, and that's going to be a good game. We're going to take that Hypno out. Well played to my opponent there. Dropping us into this next game, we've got a horrible, horrible lead in Mandibuzz. Gonna immediately, or should immediately pivot. I actually decide to try and catch a move here. My opponent, being an absolute Giga Chad, decides to not throw the energy, and now I'm getting some visual lag here, which really sucks. I don't know why I had so much visual lag, but it just happened. But Player Off is going to come through. I'm not packing Hydro Pump. Maybe I should have gone for one more for, you know, just to fake it. My opponent's got Thunderbolt, as most Deoxys do in the Great League. Gonna go for the Player Off as soon as I get it, because my opponent would otherwise get to another Thunderbolt, I do believe. If not, they would be very close to it, and I do not want to risk it, because I don't remember exactly the amount of energy that they're gonna have. But I am now presented with a situation where I can flip switch, and I'm going to darn well take it. My opponent goes for the Psycho Boost. 1 more Psycho Boost is not going to be enough, so I'm allowed to grab Switch Advantage here, which is absolutely massive, because even though Mandibuzz is a lot of energy, it's going to have to throw it if it comes back in, which it does. And Tapu Fini is going to be able to come in and manhandle this thing, but because I'm so close to the Player Off, I do decide to try and go for it. But I make the same mistake again, and I'm shielding the Azumarill, but the Azumarill hangs on with 1 HP and a whole bucket load of dreams, and it gets the Player Off into the shield from the Mandibuzz. Suddenly, now those shields don't feel so stupid. I'm going to come in with my Tapu Fini here, resisting all the Dark-type damage. My opponent has a Toxicroak in the back. I'm going to bank this Moonblast and then some, and I'm going to look to catch a Mud Bomb, or a Sludge Bomb, rather, on my Marowak. My opponent, being very patient, holds onto their energy, throws the Mud Bomb into the Marowak, and we CMP tied. Now I have to let this go. But what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to go ahead and undercharge so I can get some farm. I want to hit that Mandibuzz with a Shadow Bone at least, so that I can get some damage off on it. Maybe get it down to around Surf range so that I'm not relying on the Moonblast to KO here. So Shadow Bone's going to do a little bit of damage. It does a respectable amount of damage, plus the Fire Spins actually put this Mandibuzz down in a range where Surf would possibly come to close to KOing it. So I'm going to go ahead and go for Surf here. I'd rather not go for the Moonblast, because I know I darn well won't make it to another one if I full send it. And my opponent shields, so that makes a good decision. And I'm going to get to the Moonblast, but it's 1 turn after. So if I don't know who wins CMP here. I'm hoping it's Tapu Fini. And thankfully, Tapu Fini does win CMP. If Mandibuzz would win CMP, that would have been a loss for me. But Tapu Fini is a legendary. And, yeah, it wins CMP. Let's go. Getting into the next game here, we've got a Marowak into the Swampert. Another terrible lead. Let's pivot immediately into this Azumarill and see what the opponent's got in the back. They've gotten a Bomb of Snow. This is not looking good for me right here, but I'm going to go straight for this. Or I'm not going to go straight for anything. I'm going to let the opponent... that's what I get for not doing these videos immediately after I do my videos. But they hit me with an Energy Ball, and I'm going to go for the Player Off to do as much damage as I can, even though the Ice Beam hits most Grass types for super effective. Due to a Bomb of Snow's Ice typing, it will not hit the Bomb of Snow zero for anything other than neutral. So I'd rather go for the Play Rough first, which would hopefully put it in Ice Beam range. 2 Ice Beams probably KOs this thing, but I'd rather just go for the Play Rough first just to do the more damage here. I do know that I can safely win this and get a farm down with Marowak, and I also know that if my opponent decides to go down another shield, they're going to have a bad time, because I don't know if you guys remember how much damage the non-Shadow Swampert took from that Marowak, but it's more when it's a Shadow Swampert. So gonna go ahead and eat whatever energy this is, even if it's an energy ball or a weather ball, it doesn't matter. It's all resisted and won't do enough damage for me to worry about needing to shield here. So I am gonna go in and I'm gonna try to catch the Hydro Cannon, because I knew they were at 2 mud shots before they swapped out. Thankfully we get that catch on Tapu Fini, which is huge. And now that's going to see what they've got in the back. My opponent has a Pelipper, and if I did my math correctly, I should be able to get to this Moonblast before they get to a Hurricane. But my opponent throws the move. I have 2 shields. I'm gonna say I'm just gonna be safe, and I'm going to shield anyway. I was pretty sure it was a weather ball. The opponent throws another weather ball, and I know I can safely no shield this one, but going for that Moonblast is going to KO them at this point, and I have a shield. I am close to 1 more Shadow Bone on my Marowak to be able to take out the Swampert. Going to take out the Pelipper, and because I left myself with very little HP, the Swampert does not get the farm it desired. 2 more mud shots is what it needed, but it's going to miss it by 1 turn. Going for the Shadow Bone. Going to take out that Swampert, and I'm going for the button again. Good game to my opponent. Very well played. Next game, we've got Marowak into the Galarian Pancake Stunfisk. Now, normally I would like to play this out, but because I have 2 water types in the back, I would like to pivot. Now, perhaps I should have immediately pivoted rather than giving the giving the Stunfisk a chance to farm and get energy. My opponent shields up the Ice Beam here very smartly. I do know that I do wall this person's Venusaur's energy, but unfortunately, Frenzy Plant does still do quite a bit of damage. Not going to be able to get to the Ice Beam here, unfortunately. Was hoping to get that for a little bit of an easier farm down here, but opponent has a lot of energy, and I'm going to go ahead and no-shield this. I'm looking to probably throw a charge move here at some point, if I can time this correctly, but my opponent goes immediately for another Frenzy Plant, and this is looking very dire. I don't have a whole lot of energy that I can throw at the rest of this opponent's team, and they immediately swap in the Stunfisk and trying to snipe me, and they get the shield off of me because I am not willing to let it go. I do go for this Bone Club for the super effective ground type damage, and I feel like I need to bring in my Tapu Fini here and leave this energy for the Venusaur that's in the back. So I come in with my Tapu Fini, fully intending on farming down. My opponent throws the Rock Slide. I'm hoping I can farm down before they get to another Rock Slide, but I'm not going to make it. They're going to get there with just enough HP to withstand 1 more Water Gun, and they're going to hit me with another Rock Slide, and that's going to leave me down in a very dangerous farm range for that Venusaur if it decides to come back in. So we're going to see what they have in the back, or the Venusaur is going to come back in. Venusaur comes back in. I do know that it does have no energy, so I can safely farm up a bit extra, go for the Surf, and this is either going to get the shield, and my opponent decides to shield this up. I cannot farm down. My opponent goes for energy, fearing me being in another Surf, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come in with my Marowak. I'm going to see Amanda Buzz, and I'm going to hit the top left button, and that's going to be a good game. Well played. I know when I lost. I'm not playing that out. Forget it, man. But good leads in the next match. We've got a Nidoqueen, Shadow Nidoqueen, staying in here, looking like they might be core broken. Very often ends up being that they have like Medicham or something in the back. So opponent goes straight for the Poison Fang here. They're not even going to bother trying to get me with the Earth Power or the Stone Edge. They go straight for Poison Fang at 6. They're going to bring in a Marowak, or not a Marowak. They're going to bring in a Medicham, and my Marowak is going to go straight for the Shadow Bone. And I'm going to look to catch a move on my Azumarill, keeping that energy for later just in case I need it. Now, the nice thing here is that if I can go ahead, if I can, like, make sure that I come out of this matchup with some energy here, you know, load up to a bunch of energy and throw this player up, I will have an Ice Beam ready to go against the Nidoqueen before it can get to the Poison Fang. So that's what I'm kind of looking to do here. I'm looking to load up on as much energy as I possibly can, making sure I throw before I get to 100 with good timing. And then I'm going to let loose the Play Rough, take out the Medicham. Opponent will either bring in another Pokemon or their Nidoqueen. They have to be careful. The Nidoqueen comes back in, and because I know that they were energy dry before they swapped out, I know I can go for 3 bubbles, which is going to give them about 5 poison jabs before I go down. They're going to give me the shield, and now I can pop in with my Alolan Marowak, immediately go for the Bone Club, but apparently I lose CMP to the Nidoqueen, which I didn't think I did, but apparently I do. Poison Fang sucks, but I do end up getting the Bone Club off, and this should be enough to take out the Nidoqueen, if not close to it. And then Tapu Fini in the back maybe has a Dark type to match up against. No, instead it's an Alolan Sand Slash. My opponent stops tapping, I think. I'm not sure. I think maybe either they knew they lost or they just decided that they're not going to tap. I don't know. But anyway, I'm coming in straight with the Tapu Fini. Oh, maybe it's visual lag. I don't know. Hard to say. I've been getting a lot of visual lag in the game lately. But Tapu Fini farms down, and that's going to be a good game. In the last game, we've got a great lead in Skarmory. I'm not sure why people still run Skarmory. It's objectively way worse than like every other flyer now. But anyway, I'm going to go for the Shadow Bone right before they would get to what would be, I think, a Brave Bird here. And I'm looking to duck out before they throw any energy. So I'm immediately going to bring in my Azumarill, and I catch a move. It's 7 Air Slashes. This could be a Brave Bird or it could be a bait. But with the amount of HP they've got, it was the Brave Bird. And they immediately swap into the Azumarill mirror. This is objectively one of the most miserable mirrors to play through. It's not nearly as bad as some, though. Bastiodon, pretty bad. There's some others. Ferrothorn's actually pretty bad. A lot of steel types are very miserable mirrors. But anyway, Azumarill is going to be in here, and we're just going to look to do as much damage with this as we can. I'm not really looking to come out of this with switch advantage. Shield advantage is a little bit more necessary, but even then, I would rather take some energy, something where I can get it. My opponent has effectively just one more Pokemon left after this Azumarill goes down, so I'm going to let this go here. I know I have a ton of energy on my Marowak. They've shown me that they have Ice Beam Play Rough, so I can safely bring in my Alolan Marowak, but I also know that whatever they have in the back is probably not fond of Alolan Marowak. I'm thinking it could, again, it could be a Medicham here. Just gonna go with it. So I have 2 shields. I'm gonna go ahead and save what HP I have on my Marowak. I thought they were at a little bit less energy, which is why I was caught off guard like that. Gonna go for the Bone Club, get them down into farm range. Tapu Fini comes down and snipes it before it can throw another charge move or swap out. And then we're gonna see the opponent has a Machamp in the back, and this is looking like a pretty good game. Opponent has stopped tapping, and I say it every time, just top left. I did. I literally thought about it. I sat on the stream. I'm like, how y'all doing? Because I almost wanted to just sit here. But I know that if I stop tapping, then if the opponent does decide to come back in the game, they could just, you know, do a bunch of damage to me. I won't even see it until I start tapping again. So, good game to my opponent. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, man. Skarmory is just awful. And, yeah, Alolan Marowak is absolutely core breaking a lot of teams right now. Lots of fighters, lots of, you know, Steelix, lots of things that don't really appreciate seeing Alolan Marowak. I think there's been at least, you know, at least 5 to 10 teams today alone that I played in my sets that Alolan Marowak was good against at least 2 or 3 things on that team. So that's going to do it for me for today, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.